Welcome to ProjectME, the podcast. I'm your host, Tiffany Carter, the founder of ProjectME, multimillionaire entrepreneur, former TV newscaster, money-making expert, female empowerment speaker, and self-proclaimed office supply addict. My mission is to take the mystery out of making big money. Every week on ProjectME, the podcast, I'll share success tips, strategies, and stories from other entrepreneurs, experts, and millionaires, showing you exactly how you can achieve your most exceptional life. Now let's get to it. Welcome to ProjectME with Tiffany Carter, the podcast and posse. I'm your host, Tiffany, and I look flippin' crazy right now. There's already been 2 people who've walked by who are like, what? Am I seeing what I'm really seeing? Because how I'm perched up against the ocean is I am raised above the walkway. So the whole giant patio, ocean-facing patio here is raised above. So I'm kind of like eye level to people when they're walking by. And people are nosy, which I don't blame them. I do the same thing. You look in like, who are these people living in these houses, these mega multi-million-dollar houses on the Strand. And we want to see what's going on in these homes. You know what I'm saying? I do the same thing. So they're looking and I'm walking around wearing my pink sinus mask. I would have gotten a purple one, but they didn't make purple, from Amazon. And it's great because it Velcros to your head. It has eye holes, so I can multitask, which I'm all about that. So I'm just, casually walking around, getting stuff ready for the podcast, getting stuff ready for yoga, wearing this, no big deal. Maybe I am also brushing my teeth with my electronic toothbrush at the same time. Like, there is no shame in my game. This is part 3 of the 3-part special series, Manifesting Money. I would rather you listen to them in order, but I also want you to trust that if you landed on this particular episode today, whether a friend recommended it, you saw them in their Insta story, you did a search and found it, whatever it is, I would trust that and then make sure you listen to parts 1 and part 2. So this is episode 399. Go back to 397 and 398 to get the full 3-part series. And they all go together. So part 1 was thoughts, part 2 is words, and part 3 today are actions. The action of attraction. I'm going to share with you a mind-blowing technique that 100% works. How do I know? Because I've used it for quite some time and I've refined it. I've taught it to, I've probably taught it to 400,000 people at this point in group settings and large national sales meetings. And I still get messages from a couple years ago from people saying, oh my God, you came on this Zoom event for my network marketing company and I'm still using it. And I taught it to my husband. I even taught it to my teenage son. It totally works. So I'm excited to be teaching this to you guys today. Before we get into that, you need to save a date and time in your phone and set an alarm. You are not going to want to miss this. We are celebrating on April 6th, Wednesday, the 400th episode of ProjectME with Tiffany Carter. Now, I am not one of those people, y'all, that you're going to see with the balloons and Post-its on the wall, constantly celebrating stuff. But I also don't celebrate enough. So I know it can be obnoxious when people are always like, oh, I've had another 6-figure month. And you're like, okay, sweetie, we get it. we get it. Now go have some more helium, okay? But my team made a really great point, and I appreciate that. That's why it's so important you surround yourself with great people. It's like, no, your listeners, whether they're longtime loyal listeners or they recently found you, they're invested in the show. They want to celebrate because it's not about me, and that's why I was always weird about it. So I'm like, how can I make sure you guys know how much I value and appreciate you and that it's about you. So I am doing, for the first time ever, a podcast live on Instagram at 5:30 p.m. Pacific, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, right on my Instagram at ProjectME with Tiffany, our 400th episode. So you are going to see exactly what a live episode looks like in real time. And the topic is one I have not done before on this level. And it's the podcast playbook. Everything you need to know to launch your podcast from scratch. So I am bringing on a friend of mine and guest, Andrea Ashley, and she started her podcast last March. So it's really only been a year. And she has, I think she's over 200,000 downloads already. She almost has the same number of reviews I have, and I've been doing it 4 years. Her show wildly took off. She does everything herself. And the reason I'm bringing her on is she and I have very different approaches. She's bootstrapped the shit out of hers with almost no budget. And I've done it the other way, where I went all in, got a producer, coordinator, the equipment, all the stuff. And I want you guys to see both ways. They're both equally successful, equally get great results. And then what you can do is you can mix and match and see what feels better to you, plus ask us questions live. So save it in your phone right now. You're like, girl, I'm in the shower. And then if I go to touch my phone, it's going to get all janky. Well, you're not going to remember by the time you get out, and you know you're not, because someone's going to interrupt you and then you're going to miss it. So 5:30 p.m. Pacific, 8:30 Eastern on April 6th, our 400th episode, right on Instagram Live. And I'm excited to see you there. Okay, let's get into this exercise. I know I sound like I'm an 80-year-old Jewish man. I'm very flummy today. It's very sexy, I know. But the reason I sound like this, besides my sinuses are not happy, is because I am purposely recording this first thing in the morning, and I've had very little coffee and time to wake up my voice. And granted, I don't sound maybe as nice, but who cares? Because I wanted to make sure I took you through in real time this exercise, because you seem to like it when I do that. When I do the real time, even though I feel like I sound like a fool and it's super awkward and vulnerable, you guys seem to like it because you can relate to my brain and you go, wow, like either you go, wow, Tiff's brain is way more whacked than mine. So I know if she can do it, I can. You're either thinking that, and I know some of you are. You're like, wow, I thought I was an overthinker, an overanalyzer. She's got me beat. And then others of you are like, okay, that's exactly how I am, and it's so relatable, and it makes me feel less alone. And if she can like tame that beast, then I can. So I have a real situation that I'm dealing with, and I shared this in an amazing training we did inside the ProjectME Posse group coaching membership last Saturday, where I took them through a couple other key exercises specifically for attracting clients and money. And I've been weaving in a lot more money mindset stuff. Obviously, there's a lot of practical strategy in there, but we've gotta do this stuff. I wouldn't have done a 3-part series leading up to the 400th episode if I didn't know how wildly important and life-changing this would be for you. We do have 10 spots open for new members inside the posse right now, and that's not always the case. So you want to go check out the details of my ProjectME Posse group coaching membership, where we meet live every single week. You get live trainings from me and other special guest experts, plus a membership portal that has over 180 prior training videos and a highly engaged and collaborative, which is a key word, collaborative Facebook private community that you will absolutely love. It's not some like dead group. you will definitely not feel alone in entrepreneurship anymore inside there. You can swipe up. It's in the show notes. It's also at projectmewithtiffany.com/projectmeposse, projectmewithtiffany.com/projectmeposse. Okay. Real time. As I put my mask down, someone else just walked by. It's like, they almost look like they were in shame that they looked in. You know how like when you pull up at a stoplight and there's someone who is like driving like crap in front of you or really slow and you're like, what the F is wrong with this person? And then you end up getting at a stoplight and now that person's next to you and you're like dying to see who was driving that slow or who is this much of an idiot. So you kind of do the slow turn and then you end up making eye contact with the person and then you flip your head back to pretend it never happened. That's what just happened here. It's like, nothing to see here. I wasn't looking. It's like, yeah, well, be careful when you look in someone's house. You might see someone dancing in a money robe with a pink mask on and maybe a long purple wig. You just never know what's going to go on over here. So the real life situation that's going on here is that I am looking for a long-term luxury rental here at the beach. Period. End of story. Not a great time to buy. Shout out to Jess Burns. Shout out to Keely Hubbard. Shout out to all of my amazing realtor and real estate professional clients. Kate has the key. I mean, my friend from high school who's top 1% in the entire country, a Caldwell banker for many, many years. Shout out Melissa Tucci. Love getting my realtors making some serious bank and getting listings all using digital marketing. But there's a collective of probably not a great time to be buying at the extreme peak in SoCal. I mean, it's wild down here what people are doing. Like 500,000 over asking. I'm sorry, honey. Like, and then there's still work that needs to be done in the house. Like, oh, and you have a janky tile countertop in the kitchen and swans as the hot and cold water things. I don't think so. I don't think so, honey. That's not happening. I mean, when was that a thing? It's so funny. If you guys haven't watched the Tom and am I mixing names up? It's definitely not enough coffee. The Pam and Tommy Lee thing on, is it Netflix? Oh my God. You guys are going to die. Whether you like can remember the 90s or you were born in the 90s, I want you to see what the 90s really looked like. I mean, yeah, there was some cool shit in the 90s, but there was a lot of weird stuff. Like if you want to see what rich people did in the 90s, it's funny as hell. It is funny as hell. I mean, the stuff that was considered like, wow, like this person has that in their house. Like if you were the kid who had Snapple, if you had Snapple in your fridge, you were rich. And we had Snapple. I mean, there's a lot of abuse in the house, but we had Snapple. So there's that, right? What was the other thing? Who remembers? It wasn't Canada Dry. There was another brand with the word Canada. That was big. What else? God, there's so many things. I need to start a whole thread of, you were the rich kid in the 90s when you had blank. I had a TV in my room. That was major. And it was a pink TV too. Oh, and I had a lip phone. Yeah, but there were some other things, if you went to someone's house, you were like, damn, they have Snapple. Like they have drinks in glass bottles. Wow. Like, and it wasn't like special occasion Snapples. Like you could just grab a Snapple, like no big deal. I know I'm going off on a tangent. You're like, girl, I don't have all this time. Get to it. Okay. This is the downside of when I have not had enough coffee or wake up time. This is when you'll see my I'm not diagnosed with ADHD, so I'm using it, kind of lightly, but this is my ADHD brain. This is when I am not focused. Okay. So I am looking for a longer term luxury rental, meaning not a vacation rental, not the Airbnb deal. Those are, by the way, and I'm not exaggerating, between $30,000 and $50,000 a month here in the summer. Thank you. Ridiculous. So I have been doing all the things that you do to look and ask for help, met with realtors, asking all the people, asking locals, because this is down here. It's kind of like who you know. People have all these off-market listings. Like the rental market is now kind of like the buyer's market. It's like it's such a hot market, they won't even list it. And then there's people who do bait and switching with it, where they'll put these amazing rentals on the MLS. And for those of you who don't know what the MLS is, that's like basically realtor access only, where you officially list, houses. You officially list houses on there. So there's rentals on there now, but 90% of them are bait and switches. So I have gone through where I'm like, oh my God, there it is. That place looks awesome. I want to see it. Call the person, the realtor answers. Oh no. Yeah, someone took it off for rental now, or someone's already rented it 2 days ago or last week. But tell me what you're looking for. Now, when it happened the first 2 times, I was like, well, I know it's a hot market and this place was great. So maybe I can, as savvy as I am, I can be naive too. And then it just kept happening. And I was like, this is bullshit. Because one even popped on where it was like new. And I'm like, there's no way it was gone. It's already gone. So they're trying to just get my business for other rentals that weren't as attractive, or trying to get me to buy or to see if I have a house currently to list. Yeah, not cute. So I was getting more and more agitated, like, oh my God, like the scarcity. Met with realtors and they were like, oh, it's very hard to get a rental right now. It's going to be hard to get what you want. They're in scarcity and they're selling me the scarcity. And I start getting panicky because I'm getting fed the scarcity. I'm starting to feel it. I'm like, oh my God. And listen, your girl over here ain't broke. Like the budget's pretty freaking high. Okay. Like not normal high. And on top of that, I have top credit, top references. I mean, I have all the things that you would want in a renter. I'm the ideal renter. People, the place I'm in now would get on the phone and be like, this is one of our best tenants we've ever had, all the things. So I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. And plus I told you guys in another episode, I think I did, it might've been inside the Posse membership, but where this big wig realtor in town who deals with like all the fancy people, we met for coffee. First of all, I almost meet no one for coffee, but I was like, well, this guy's, came as a referral and he doesn't meet with that many people. You have to have a certain net worth, blah, blah, blah. Well, he's an asshole. I'm not going to say his name because I don't want to get sued, but he was like, you're trying to play in an area where you don't have enough money to. Oh, really? His name isn't Richard, but we're going to call him that. Okay, Richard. So how much money do I need to play here? It was like, are we in the 1950s? Mm-hmm. It's like, yeah. Richard, do I threaten you? Thanks, Richard. Why am I wanting to call him Richard? And why is the nickname for Richard Dick? Is that the case in other countries, or is that just a US thing? Like, why? How did we go from Richard to Dick? There must have been a lot of Richards who were dicks. And I have known a few Richards, and they were kind of dicks. No offense to my Richards out there. So, scarcity, right? Now, given that I've been in sales and business a long time, I also know that, and being, in the real estate game, I know that a lot of people use scarcity, as you guys see online with online coaches or experts, right? There's a lot of people that sell with extreme scarcity, fear-based tactics, manipulation, not about that life. But it also works. It also works, which is why, buying likes, followers, views, subscribers, all those things is a $1 billion industry. And those people slide into your DMs constantly because they are going after your scarcity of, God, my account's not growing. No one's going to hire me if they don't see that I don't have engagement on my content, if I don't have enough followers, and I'm going to look like I'm a nobody. And I'm putting out all this content and it's not growing. So they saw, scammers and opportunists. When they smell scarcity, fear, ego-based stuff, they go in for the kill, man. And it works. I personally couldn't sleep at night, but, on the other hand, if I was, in a third world country and couldn't feed my kids, I might be very fine with it. There's two sides to that. But Richard was doing this tactic on me. Almost like, well, you're not super familiar with living in the South Bay. It's very different than Calabasas. Da, 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 da. Okay, Richard. In my head, I'm going, well, I will never be doing business with this guy again. So I got into that scarcity. So number one is you have to be very careful what you're consuming and who you're surrounding yourself with. And it could be your significant other. It could even be your best friend. It could be your boss. It could be your coworkers. It could be people. It could be your VA. It could be your neighbor. It could be the people in your book club. It could be your church friends. You need to be very careful because even if you kind of put up a block where you're like, well, I'm not going to absorb their scarcity energy, I'm not going to take on their poverty mentality, that's a lot of energy to do that. And it's going to break through. It's going to seep through, right? It'd be like putting duct tape on a leak in a boat, right? It's going to, it'll hold. But at a certain point, it's going to start seeping through. And I'm not saying you have to get rid of these people in your life. You're like, should I get a divorce over this? I'm not saying you need to do that, but you can set boundaries. I have set boundaries in relationships with significant others saying, I appreciate that, you're very worried about X, Y, and Z, and you consume the news all the time, and you want to complain about, gas prices and this, that, and the other. I just ask that, if you want to vent about that to people at your work or your friends, that's fine. I can't take that in. It's really negatively impacting me, and set a boundary around it. That's one. God, I'm kind of regretting recording this, not being awake enough. I feel like I'm all over the place, and I'm hoping it's somewhat entertaining, but I'm also feeling like it's annoying. But it could be that it's just really vulnerable for me, and I really want to stop and re-record. And I'm not going to because A, I don't have time for that, and B, that would be going against what I teach you guys to do. So I had to really regroup several times during this process. And it's not like I'm searching for this at the last minute. Now, do I have to be out? For sure by May 31st. And some of you are like, well, God, Tiff, you have time. Well, you have to remember, I live where people come from all over the world to go on holiday and to vacation. And a lot of people are now taking these longer vacations, especially in the US. A lot of Europeans come here and they'll come here for 2 weeks and they'll go to Hawaii. Hawaii is back open again. It's like a very smart stopover, or they'll do here, Mexico, Hawaii. So it's peak season. So I've started early enough. I've done my part. I'm in action, right? And that's why I've titled this episode, The Action of Attraction. You have to be in action. You can't sit back and visualize and hope and pray and write and vision board and crystals and incense and, I don't know, roll around in scented herbs. you have to be in action for what you want. And it has to be, but it can't be frantic action. And I'm calling myself out because I'm vacillating back and forth. I'll start out in action where it looks very deliberate, doing all the things, taking the meetings, being proactive, being very clear with what I want, visual, and then using my own other practices, right? And what I've discussed in the other two parts of this series, right? Making sure I'm saying things like, I deserve the best and get it. Or I'm going to end up in something at this level where I'm at now, in the place I'm at now, or something even better. And I'm here for it. I like adding that now at the end. And I'm here for it. Just like when you say it, you should say it out loud right now. Right? This or something better. And I'm here for it. It like automatically makes you smile. So I've been doing those things in my abundance walks, and when I've been looking at all, researching the different websites to go on for luxury rentals. I mean, I've not rented since I was like 25 years old. I bought my first luxury condo at 26. So it's not like, I've been in the game. And last time I rented, it was a 1-bedroom that smelled like Indian curry. And I did my best to almost never be there. And there were very few windows. It was very dark inside. So little different budget than I have now. So it looked good and I was okay. But then as I kept taking in the scarcity coming in from these realtors, or even from the vacation rental company I'm currently renting from, they're like, oh, well, it's peak season. People want, the place you're in now is going to be $30,000 a month, $1,000 a night. I know I'm not joking. And I'm like, that's agreed. Now that's offensive. When it's egregious, I'm like, no, I'm not paying for it. And so I was getting it from them and I go, God, then it started mind fucking me. Like, God, maybe I'm being too casual about this. Maybe I should be stressed out about this. Maybe I should be looking more. Maybe I should be pushing other priorities and things I want to do in my business and this big fucking thing that I want to launch for you guys that I've never done before. Maybe I need to put that to the side. Maybe I need to put TikTok to the side. Maybe I need to put my dental appointment to the side because I should really be focusing any of my spare time, aside from on, my paying clients. I need to be doing this because clearly I should be more worried than I am. This is what happens, right? It's like, this is what happens when we take in all of that. And I got into that scarcity vibe. So then what do you think happened? I was an absolute freak show. And scrolling nonstop, looking nonstop, doing what a lot of you guys are doing for your business, right? Like, maybe if I post this, maybe if I do this reel, maybe if I use these hashtags, maybe if I post more, maybe I need to be on TikTok now, maybe I need to start a Pinterest, maybe an email list, maybe a new course. Oh my God, it's so much. It's so overwhelming. Fuck it. I just can't do anything. I just need to go disappear. This is all too much. It's not going to work out for me. And so I would go from being in that frantic state to total resistance, brain and body shut down. I don't want to deal with this anymore. This is not fun. This is too hard. This is heavy. This is pointless. And then I would do nothing. But then I'd have anxiety about doing nothing because I also know you can't do nothing and attract what you want. But there's a fine balance. There's, I can go into the black and white thinking. Anyone who has grown up in a dysfunctional or alcoholic household, it's very common for us to have black and white thinking, all or nothing thinking. You've experienced trauma in your life. You've had a toxic relationship. You've experienced narcissistic abuse. Very common to do that. It's also common for us highly sensitive people and empaths to get in that state too, because it can all just feel like so much to us. And our circuits get crossed and overwhelmed. And then we shut down. We literally can't function. It's like paralysis of the brain. So that happened to me. And thankfully, I have some people in my life who understand and who lovingly pointed out, like, it seems like you're having some kind of a trauma response from doing this. Like, you're in such a state of panic and fear. It's like, you're being chased by a bear. So if you're in that kind of a frantic kind of state around anything in your life, a relationship, your business, whatever it may be, a situation with your kids, and it's almost like you're being chased by a bear, like, that's when you're in true fight or flight around something. And it's always about something deeper than the very thing. And I had to unpack that. So I want you to ask yourself the question of, what am I really afraid of here? The thing that you're clinging on to, that you are squeezing so tight in your fist, you're in so much self-will, there's no surrender. You're squeezing so tight that you've squeezed the ability for the universe or God to work their magic along with you. Ask yourself, what am I so afraid of here? What am I afraid will happen if I don't get this? What am I afraid of if this doesn't happen? And then maybe it's the other side. What am I afraid of if it does happen? What's going to be required of me in order to get this? We know fear is irrational, but we need to unpack it and see what's behind that. And in my case, oh God, I feel tears are coming. But in my case, it's like, oh my God, I want this so badly. I want this so badly. I love it here so much. I feel free, truly free for the first time in my life. And it's not just the location I'm at. It's the work I've done on myself, but I feel so free, and I want something so badly. And it's scary when you want something that badly, because what if you don't get it? That'll hurt so badly. So I'm like fighting and pushing and forcing to get it because I want it so bad, and I don't want to leave any stone unturned because I want it so badly, and I don't want to face the pain of not getting it. So I'm coming from the energy of, what if I don't get it? Well, that's scarcity energy. What if this business doesn't work out? What if no one buys from me? What if I invest all this time, energy, and money and it doesn't pay off and it doesn't work, or I don't follow through, or it doesn't happen? We've got to flip that. It is happening. This is happening. I am finding the exact perfect place for me. And I'm going to take calm and grounded and consistent actions and do my part. But I'm also going to allow room for the universe and God to help me and work their magic and work their miracles. I'm not going to suffocate it out with my scarcity. And it's okay. You're going to have scarcity. You're going to have fear come up. But what we've got to do is really manage it. And go, okay, what are you afraid of? And I want you to talk to yourself. What is it you're afraid of? Well, I'm afraid I won't be able to live here. That's my inner child really saying that. I really like it here, Mommy. I'm afraid I won't be able to live here. Or I'll have to move into somewhere that I don't really like, that's not high vibe, that has tile countertops with mold in the grout and swans and rusted brass swans as the hot and cold water taps and a mildewy shower curtain. And that's going to totally affect my business and my vibe and my energy, because it's so important that I feel safe and secure and excited and vibrant about where I live. And I'm afraid I'm going to have to settle for less. And you know what? I'm tired of settling for less, Mom. We've done that most of our lives. I do not want to settle for less anymore. That's what I mean by working it out loud with yourself. It's really because you want it to work so badly because you're so tired of blank. You're so tired of not doing it. You waited so long. You waited too long. You procrastinated. You avoided. You resisted. You're tired of feeling unfulfilled. You're tired of not being excited about what you do. You're tired of going through life in survival mode instead of thriving. You're tired of it. and you're afraid if it doesn't work, then what? That's part of why it took me 10 years to start ProjectME. Because if I really went for it and then it didn't work, what in the hell then was I going to do with myself? Then what was I supposed to do with my life? At least those 10 years I had a dream and I had hope and I could daydream and imagine. But if I really went for it and it didn't work and my dream was busted, I'd feel so deflated and so hopeless and like such shit. And I am doing the same thing with this house search, and you guys are doing the same thing, which is why I'm sharing this with you. You have to have that conversation out loud. Now, obviously, if you're work with me as a private client, right? I take you guys through this work as we are doing all the strategy and bringing fresh cash in your business, because otherwise you'll repel it. This is why it's so important to do this stuff. It's tough. It really is tough. And I had to give myself a detox from looking. I made one phone call this weekend and I looked up one thing and that was it. I was not allowed to scroll. I had to kind of recalibrate my nervous system around it. And I sent a voice text to my realtor. And by the way, I did attract an amazing realtor. Shout out Gino. I met him at an open house for a house that I wanted to check out. And he was the only local realtor that didn't do any scarcity tactic on me. And he goes, no, we'll find you what you want. Without a doubt. And I could sense that he was starting to get kind of frustrated because he would send me stuff and I'd be like, no, that's not going to work for me. And I'm like, well, that's not giving him much feedback. Right? Because I was in that frustrated scarcity vibe, which is not an attractive vibe, even for the people who are trying to help you, right? So I left him a voice text. I think it was yesterday. And I said, listen, I know I probably sound like I'm being really particular. And I go, and quite frankly, I am very particular about where I live. It's very important to me, but here's why, and here's what I'm looking for. And here are my non-negotiables. And here's where I can bend. And it's very fair and reasonable with what I'm saying, especially with my budget and my credit and references and all of that stuff. And he sent me a beautiful message back like, okay, now this makes more sense. I get it. I understand. That's why those didn't work. Right? Like, he's like, okay. Because and for a lot of people, or maybe if I wasn't in the line of work I'm in, or I didn't work from home, these other places could have totally worked. I mean, there was a place that was a great deal, but there's mega construction on each side of it. And it's a mega deal because of the construction. But when you're at the beach, they have to drive like steel pillars down into the sand for earthquake stuff. And it's insane. And I'm not going to do that to myself. No matter what the deal is, I'm not going to trade my peace for a price, you know? Ooh, that could be a good quote. So have that conversation with yourself. What are you so afraid of, sweetie? And if you're like, God, I've not really done inner child work, that seems weird, then maybe it's your scared self talking to your higher self, or vice versa, your higher self talking to your scared self. Right? We all have those two sides in us. Maybe for you, it's easier to write it down. You can do non-dominant handwriting, where if you're right-handed, you write the question with your right hand and you answer it with your non-dominant hand. That works really well for a lot of people. And talk yourself through it as you would a friend. What would you say to a friend? You wouldn't go, well, God, you're being so reactionary and so crazy about this. Like, you need to get over yourself. It's going to be fine. Now, I have some friends who can talk to me like that sometimes, and that's not okay with me. And that's not loving, and that doesn't feel good. Because I have a history with my PTSD of where I live is incredibly important to me, and I can't feel trapped, and I must feel safe. And that's not loving when someone does that. What would be loving, right, is I know this is absolutely scary for you. It would be for anybody to have so much uncertainty about where you're living. And I know how important it is for you. And you're taking all the necessary actions. And we need to allow some space in here for God and the universe to do their magic. And I'll do whatever I can to help you. But your grip is so tight right now that it's putting you in an energy that's not helping you. Like, let's loosen the grip. Even if you can't loosen it, completely unclench that fist, let's at least not white knuckle it. Because it's not realistic when people are like, well, just let go and surrender. Well, you just need to let go. Like, how is this working for you? This doesn't seem to be working for you. You just need to, you just need to trust. You just need to have faith. Oh, really, sweetie? So let's see how that goes in your life when you have a major event going on in your life and you're terrified. And I say that to you. That's not helpful. And it's also not realistic. And that's also black and white and extreme on either side. Instead, it's, let's loosen the grip a little bit. And I've got to make money in the business. No one's buying. No one's signing up. No one's enrolling. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. When is this going to work? No one's liking my stuff. No one's listening to my podcast. When is this going to happen? When is this going to happen? How am I going to get my next clients? I don't have any clients coming in. Ooh, just let's unclench a little bit. Unclench a little bit and go, I'm still going to show up. I'm still going to take action. But I am not going to keep jamming this square peg into a round hole to the point where I break the thing, because that can also happen. Now, I need to say this. I am an action taker. I'm on that part of the spectrum where I get into action. Now, I can get paralyzed too and I get overwhelmed, but I get back into action. There's a lot of you who end up more so in inaction. You end up in procrastination, dissociating, not doing, just completely tuning it out, resisting from taking action. And that's out of fear too. When you can be in fear and extreme action, and you can be operating out of fear and scarcity in non-action. Or you're just taking a bunch of little surfacey actions, but not taking the real action needed, right? Like an example would be you are consuming a lot of information, doing free trainings, listening to podcasts, reading books, maybe buying a course here and there, but you're still not really getting anywhere. You're still spinning your wheels. You're still throwing spaghetti in the wall and hope that it works, which is not a profitable business plan. Instead of actually paying for something that is going to move the needle for you and you showing up for it. A lot of you pay for stuff and then don't even use it. And that's why I created the ProjectME Posse group coaching membership. It's $3.33 a day. You can't tell me that you can't find the resources for that. And if you can't find the resources for that, I'm highly concerned of your level of willingness to get creative and resourceful to build the business that you want. You get weekly live trainings. You get a library of all the things needed in order to start, grow, and scale making money online. Everything from passive income to video marketing to reels, to how to create profitable posts, to hashtags, to email lists, to Pinterest trainings, to starting a podcast, you name it, it's in there. And it's available for you. And we have 10 spots open for new members right now. I keep this membership at an intimate size. So this is not one of those memberships where there's 7,000 people and you just feel like you're a number in a sea and then you never show up because no one will notice. Au contraire. We notice when you're not there. We notice when you're not there, and our private Facebook group is so engaged and collaborative where they go on each other's podcasts, they do Instagram lives together, Facebook lives. And they all notice when you're not there and don't show up, which helps keep you accountable for that low price. I mean, if you can hold me accountable for that price, that's pretty amazing. And then have live weekly trainings ongoing. It's month to month. You can cancel at any time. I do not want anyone in the posse who is not excited to be there, because there's no point. But you've got to show up and you've got to use it. But take the first action. Go look at the sales page, which has tons of testimonials of great results from other members, all the details. You can swipe up. It's in the show notes, or go to projectmewithtiffany.com/ProjectMePosse, projectmewithtiffany.com/ProjectMePosse. Would love to see you in there. And share this series, share this Manifesting Money series with people who are experiencing that scarcity and are in fear, whether they're in that inaction stage of it, or they're in obsessive action like I was. Share it in your Instagram stories, or share it with them privately to listen to this 3-part series. This is designed for you to come back to again and again, so that you can regroup, because it's not a one and done process with this money mindset stuff. This is a daily, ongoing life work practice, because we're being inundated with messages all the time, and we're only human. We're only doing the best we can. But I want you coming from a grounded space. Nothing happens from hiding, and nothing happens from being a frantic, tightly gripped, false sense of control around things either, right? We've got to live in that middle ground, but we need help getting there, because it's very easy to go to either side. Wishing you guys great health, wealth, and worth as always. Love you. If you enjoyed this podcast, please write a 5-star review on iTunes. Not only will this make me super happy, but it will allow more listeners to find our special show. Simply help me help others.